Hi everybody, it's Faye here. No, this isn't a White House press conference. I just had a message for you guys today. Something that I felt that the Father impressed upon my heart this morning. About 6 or 8 weeks ago, my neighbor that lives across the street had given me 2 plants. And these plants are both in pots. They're in the exact same pot. They're the exact same kind of flower. They're called an amaryllis. And I've never grown these flowers before, but apparently they're a fairly popular plant. Anybody that knows me knows that I love to garden. I love to dig in the dirt. I love to plant things, and especially in the spring. That's my favorite time of year, when I see new things popping up through the ground, flowers that are blooming in the spring. And then in the summer, when we plant our garden and we do our vegetables, and we have lots of things that we start from seeds. We put them into the ground, and then when you see something that you have worked for come to life, it's just fascinating to me. It's exciting, and it gives me such joy to be able to do. But this morning, the Father impressed something upon my heart that I had never really examined or thought about until now. And it was about these 2 plants. Now, like I said, these plants are the same. When I got them, one plant was maybe an inch or so taller than the other one, but they were basically the same. And so I've been taking care of them, watering them, and kept them in the window and turning them so that the sun, they'll get the proper amount of sun. And but as these plants have grown over the time that I've had them, there's been dramatic changes in one of these plants. And I'm going to show them to you because this is something that is quite astounding. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because the other thing that I love is how our spiritual lives can be equated to planting and gardening and growing things. So the thing that I wanted to share is that a lot of times in our lives, and maybe especially as women, we tend to compare ourselves with others. And we look at other people and we think, gosh, why can't I be beautiful and thin or tall or shorter or, so many things. We do the same thing in our spiritual lives as men and women. We compare ourselves to how well our brother so-and-so is doing. His ministry's growing big, or their fellowship is really, taking off right now. Or, man, it seems like sister so-and-so gets all the blessings. How come I don't get that? So we constantly are comparing ourselves as humans, and we all do it. I'm guilty of it myself. But what I really wanted to impress is about these 2 plants and how much they're the same, but also how much different they are. So I'm going to show you one of the plants first, and this is the one that I got. Now, both of these were about the same size when I got them. And this is the first plant. Now, you can see that when I got this plant, it was right here. And so it has been growing. It's been, all this time it has been growing. It is continuing to grow. And this is actually what's going to be the bloom on this one. It hasn't grown the leaves yet. It has just a little bit here, but hasn't grown leaves yet. But the bloom is coming up first. So now I want to show you the second plant. This is the second plant. Now this plant was just like the first one. It was cut off down here. It grew these leaves first, and then this stalk developed. And it grew these beautiful blossoms at the top of the stalk. There's 4 blossoms on this one stalk that it came from. And it's just gorgeous. It's amazing. The blossoms are as big or bigger than my hand, the flowers. But when we look at these 2 plants side by side, you might think, well, what's wrong? What has happened to this one? There's something wrong. It must be sick, or there's a problem with it. She's just this tiny little thing, and this one has grown, I don't know, probably a foot more than the other one. But it was this one's time to blossom. This was the time that she was supposed to bloom. This one hasn't matured yet. She hasn't got there. She's growing, but she hasn't blossomed yet. Now they've been sitting side by side. Do you think she's been saying, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be big and beautiful like that? Probably not, because she's in her own pot. She's in her space. She's where the Father put her. She's planted here. Now, the other thing I wanted to share is how these plants came to grow the way that they do. How did this plant get to this point? Well, there's a process that they have to go through. This plant will grow. This stalk here is these blooms will stay on for a while, but then the blooms are gonna die. The next thing that'll happen is this stalk here is going to die that the blooms are on. Now the leaves will stay throughout the spring and summer and into the beginning of fall. But eventually these leaves here are going to die as well. So then what happens? Do you just throw the plant away? No. What has to happen is these have to be cut. They have to be cut off at the root. And then they have to be taken out of the pot and put in the dark for a while. They have to go what's called dormant. So they have to be in the dark, in the colder, cooler climate where they can be dormant for a little while. And then once that happens, you bring them back out, you put it back in the pot, and you let it start to grow again. You water it, you put it in the window to where it can get sun, and then they'll start to grow again. So, I don't know if you can see, but you don't put dirt up close around. Most plants you want to make sure that you cover the root, but these plants you don't. Some of the root is still sticking out. And the point is what's down inside underneath the dirt that you can't see, that's what's growing. That's where the heart is. That's the root. That's what's deep down inside of us. And when we get that root in there, when it starts to grow, when it gets the proper nutrition, the proper sunlight, the proper water and food that it needs, then it will grow. It might not grow. Sometimes they don't bloom every year. Sometimes they bloom every other year. It may be the conditions aren't right for it to bloom next year. But that doesn't mean that it's hopeless or that it's lost. That just means that it has more time to be nourished, to get stronger, so that it can grow up into this beautiful flower that you'll see. So each of us have a season and a time to blossom. And there's my cat, see? That's Sunshine. That's the reason that I had to put them in the bathroom. But each of us have a time that we are designed to blossom. And sometimes we bloom over and over and over. Sometimes we don't. But the thing is we're still growing. We're still maturing. We're still learning. We're still fortifying ourselves. All hope is not lost. We have something beautiful to look forward to. The time when we can flourish, when we can show our true splendor that the Creator of all gave to us. And how else can you express yourself than to look at something like that and not see that our God, our Creator, is the most magnificent thing in the world. So that's all I have for you. I just wanted to share that little bit with you. And I hope that you all stay blessed and happy. And I hope this is an encouragement. Thank you. Shalom.